Ready? Yeah. Hi there. Some of the critics really dislike the latest offering from visionary director Christopher Nolan. They say it's his worst movie yet to date. Half of the really devoted audience loves it, and the other half of the audience is leaving theaters before the end of the movie. Who is right? And can this movie be really the beginning of the next chapter of the modern cinema? The last motion picture of one and only Christopher Nolan is nothing short of a spectacle. After more than half a year of closed theaters and multiple delays, this is the first proper flick that we are able to see on almost forgotten silver screen. Nolan is one of the few directors that insist that his movies are supposed to be seen on a big screen with the proper audio that he will control, obviously from the past. And he's absolutely right. This is one of the very few movies that are absolutely must-see in the theater. This is why I was unpleasantly surprised when this couple that was sitting next to me left the theater before my wristwatch was showing the half of 2.5 hour long theatrical spectacle. Did they really hate the movie? The most anticipated flick of the year deserves to be examined under the loupe like no movie before it. At the end, all of the Nolan masterpieces are considered modern classics, a lot of them on top of the IMDb's best movies in the history charts, and Nolan is able to bend art and magic of the cinema to yield budgets from Warner Brothers and repay them multiple times through staggering box office profits. In this movie, he combined the strongest visual clues from all of his movies: spy fabric from Inception, time relativity from Interstellar, and the most of other movies' mystery of Memento, ludicrously choreographed fight scenes from Batman trilogy, and the war scenes borrowed from beaches of the France presented in Dunkirk. Then, simple mathematics should lead us to obvious conclusion that this must be his best movie yet to date. On top of that, a really complex plot that we never seen before, and you can ask yourself, what can really go wrong? The answer is a lot of things. Really a lot of things. But to analyze that, we need to start from the beginning, or let's say from the past.
It'll open the right doors, some of the wrong ones too.
And before we continue any further, I need to warn you that the rest of this video will contain some mild spoilers of not only Tenet but also the rest of the Christopher Nolan magnum opus. If you didn't see any of his movies or you didn't see some of them, please pause this video, watch those movies and return here on some other occasion.
Well, I've seen too much. Well, we'll try and keep up.
But let's clear something first. You ask yourself why you should really listen to me. So let me introduce myself a little bit and, before I start with my honest opinion. My name is Vladislav Radak and I'm a writer and mathematician, and for the last 15 years I tried to fuse science and art and to combine those to create the novels that can transcend maybe both. For my second novel that was called Night of Dead Dreams, I used relativity theory to send my characters through the time-space continuum and to explain something that was not really explainable just without involving physics. For my third novel, I used something that is still on my wall called Alcubierre Drive to also play with certain physical elements and to introduce some mathematics as a top layer of my novels. I spent decades studying those really complex concepts, and in the meantime I was reading a lot of classical literature and tried to follow the shapes of the stories that define us. So what's my opinion? Is Tenet Vicky's offering from one of the greatest directors alive? Definitely not, but the complex narrative arc makes this wobbly structure way too fragile, and audience can certainly feel that. A mere 12 hours after watching this movie, I cannot blame people for walking out of the theater. And here is why. To understand the fragility of Nolan's script, we need to ask ourselves what makes a good art, and specifically what makes his previous movies such an immersive experience. Since the dawn of humanity, we are telling each other fictional stories that can reveal piece by piece universal truth about us. Those stories don't need to be real, but their quality and longevity strictly depend on the amount of answers they can give us to the most complicated questions science cannot answer. Why are we here? Why do we love? Why do we feel pain? So all those fictional stories made their way through generations, then later papyrus, scripts, theater, and at the very end, movies. And nobody understands that phenomena better than Christopher Nolan. In his freshman offering Memento, he's playing with time continuum to put us in the shoes of a person who suffers from undergrade amnesia on his quest to find a killer of his wife and revenge her. In intricate plot with brilliant acting, Nolan captures audiences' attention, leading them unprepared for resolution of every great art, comprehension of universal truth that most of the times has nothing to do with the plot. In this case, main protagonist, trapped in a vicious cycle of vengeance, realized that he needs to escape from himself and that revenging his wife will not bring her back. You see, the complicated narrative plot is not part of our lives, but the main core message of the movie is. And that's the art. In Inception, main protagonist Cobb is involved in the national ring of espionage that involves him creating beautifully imagined worlds. In 3-hour-long masterpiece filled with action and visual gems, we are immersed in a complex family story about sadness, abandonment, distance, and about father not being able to see his children. In the last scene that is still discussed, 1 decade later, we don't identify ourselves with brilliant spy, creator of synthetic dreams, but rather with the architect who, in the maze of his brilliance, lost his family. You get it. Art. Same could be said for the rest of Nolan's opus. Interstellar on the first glance is a space adventure about searching for the place where humanity has a future, but deep into unknown abyss of space, it is a sensitive story about family, relationship of daughter and the father, about the cost of the future that one family needs to pay. Dunkirk is even more simple for identification. Since it's the only Christopher's movie based on the real events, for audience it's easy to stop at the beach of France in shoes of hungry soldiers, trapped between bombs and cold ocean, missing home and hoping for the mere survival. It is not a story about planes fighting in the sky or ships on the sea. It is a story about the importance of the home. Which leads us to TENET, where the main story, the main plot is our protagonists are trying to stop the Third World War or something even worse from happening, according to scientists who doesn't have any on-screen appearance except one scene to deliver really clean, really clear exposition about the technology, how you can actually catch the bullet with a gun.
We're trying to prevent World War III.
I'm not saying Armageddon here.
No. Something worse.
So our main characters are trying to stop the apocalypse, and nothing more. Our main characters, led by brilliant performances of John David Washington and Robert Pattinson, are stripped from all the characteristics, history, names, in order to clear the space for the complex time-shifting plot. They have no second names, no families or lovers. Unfortunate for the audience, their motives are unclear and their vision is simple: learn how to reverse time and save the world. But is that enough? Then let us consult some great literature on the writing. In his seminal work, Into the Woods, a 5-act journey into story, John Yorke stated that The midpoint of each film, in the moment when each protagonist embraces for the first time the quality they will need to become complete and finish their story, it's when they discover a truth about themselves. This is what Nolan's script fails to deliver. Since characters are stripped away from their past because of the plot reasons, their past can also become their future in time direction shifting narrative, we as the audience really don't know how they were before the ultimate quest begin, and we're missing the first point of their hero journey, and it's really hard for us to support them in a really complex narrative when we're not sure what they want to become. In Inception, Cobb needs to let go of his past to secure future for his children. It's pretty simple for us to grapple. In Interstellar, Cooper needs to bend the time-space continuum using his love to communicate with his daughter to feed her support and knowledge. In Tenet, they need to save the world, but for the audience that already survived the worst pandemic in a century, who missed touch of the loved ones or lost members of their family, end of the world seems a little bit too simple. In Tenet, characters learn about science and technology, learn about the lurking evil and the worst possible outcomes, but they learn nothing about themselves, leaving us audience bared of main purpose of art. Leading us through an elaborate maze of scenography, rewinding and fast-forwarding time, Christopher Nolan takes us on the tour of his brilliant mind and the worlds that live inside it. For the director so high about everybody else, it seems he has only himself to compare to, reminding us of the main character of the movie Inception, trapped in his dreams, not letting the real life to pour in. Tenet is far from being a bad movie. Mesmerizing scenes, time-shifting action sequences, nerve-wracking spy story marks the next height for Nolan's rich opus. But for the world that went through some really difficult times, something that director Christopher Nolan couldn't impossibly anticipate while making this movie, for the world that is missing love, touches and intimacy, just one kiss on the cheek of the main character before he goes into death-defying battle is not going to be enough. Hey, if you like this video, consider subscribing to this channel, hit that notification bell to be notified every time when we post something new, because we're preparing some amazing content for you. We're working on a really long list of documentaries that are taking us all over the globe. We're trying to explore science, art and everything in between like nobody did it before. If you're interested in the new adventures, consider subscribing, and don't forget, libraries still exist.